The Mercedes-AMG E63S comes a long time after the wider world had its first Lotus Carlton moment. I wonder if it will have another. When will it sit up with the start and say, a 600 bhp, 190 miles per hour family saloon car? Are you completely mad? Anyway, here is a 600 bhp family saloon. There are so many new cars. So many new Mercedes cars. You'd almost be forgiven for patting it on the head gently, knowingly, as it passes. Another new AMG. Welcome to the world, son. We know your brothers, dominated by their engines, lots of tire smoke, that sort of thing. Sit yourself in that little niche over there, the one marked hot rod. Well, don't. This car isn't like other recent AMGs. Well, it is, but it's not only like other AMGs. There's a bit more to it than that. Mechanically, there's a fair degree of what you know. The chassis is the latest generation Mercedes-Benz E-Class saloon. The design has been given the expected tweaks. It's subtle, muscular, more pumped up in the wheel arches, where it's 11 mm wider to accommodate a wider track and 265/35 front and 295/30 rear 20-in tires. There's a diffuser, big exhausts and a lip spoiler on this saloon. An estate will follow late next year. Under the sculpted bonnet is the latest iteration of AMG's 4.0-liter, twin-turbocharged V8. New for the C63 is that the hot turbos, which sit within the V rather than down by the sides of the cylinders, where the center of gravity would be lower, are twin-scrolled units. So they have two tubes through them, each one putting air to two cylinders. So yes, while the center of gravity is higher, bad, and the air perhaps hotter, also bad, the paths from turbo to cylinder are much shorter, which makes for improved throttle response times, good. It keeps the engine more compact, too. There are also two power outputs, 563 bhp as standard, or 603 bhp in the S version. The V8 drives through a 9-speed automatic gearbox, the first time Mercedes' 9-speed box has been engineered to cope with this much torque. And if the E63S makes a lot of anything, it's torque, 627 pounds-foot of it, from 2,500 to 4,500 revolutions per minute. It's an automatic transmission rather than a dual-clutch unit, but instead of a torque converter, it gets a wet clutch. In right-hand drive the versions of the last E63, power went only to the rear wheels, but in other markets the car was mostly four-wheel drive. In fact, globally, 90% of all E63s sold drove through all four wheels. This time they all will, even the right hookers. At the back of the gearbox is a clutch, through the middle of which runs a prop shaft to the back wheels. In everyday mooching, the E63 is rear-wheel drive. But as the clutch starts to engage, as much as 50% of the power will go to the front. Theoretically, where the rear tires on ice and the front tires on paper, all power would go to the fronts, but practically, 50-50 is the maximum split. At the back, meanwhile, there's a limited slip differential, which is mechanically controlled on the non-S variant but electronically controlled on the S. There are also a number of drive modes, culminating in race, after which you can switch out the stability controls to either sport mode or all off. And after you've done that you can enter drift mode, which basically always disconnects the front wheels, to let the E63 do what AMGs have been doing for years, smoking up tires. Other things to note, before we move on. The body shell has been stiffened with the addition of a couple of braces. AMG won't say exactly by how much. Apparently it's not as simple as that, because it depends where you measure it. And there are air springs all round. Prices won't be announced until early next year, but an S is likely to be around £83,000. What's it like? Most buyers opt for the saloon, impossibly cool though fast estates are. And all in, this 4-doors curb weight is 1,955 kilograms. Yet still this is a car with a 3.5 seconds 0 to 62 miles per hour time and a top speed of 186 miles per hour if you spec the AMG driver's package. Exactly how much is too much? Not this much, I've decided. I'm trying to make the power of a McLaren F1 an accepted unit of measurement, like the length of a double-decker bus or an area the size of Wales. Anyway, the E63 has it, more or less. Chances are it'll deliver more torque to the wheels, more of the time, than the McLaren. But you don't have to use it all, and the E63 is a rather lovely thing on the road even if you choose not to. The engine's response is good even in the less angry driving modes, and the steering is weighty and accurate, while the suspension is firm enough that in the UK it might be approaching, if I can use this word, nuggety. It's good fun, in other words, and certainly comfortable and controlled enough. There's insurmountable grip and traction for all road conditions, but like all things performance these days, you'll be wanting a circuit to get the best out of the E63. On track, I'm expecting it to be a hot rod like the previous generation E63 was at its launch. Manage the front end so it doesn't understeer, get back on the power, feel it squirm and you're away. Something less agile than the C63, at any rate. But it turns out that the new E63 is genuinely remarkable on a circuit. Astonishingly. Not because of the power. You expect that, if not the quickness of the throttle response for a turbo, and not because of the way the brakes, if carbon ceramics are fitted, just don't give up. No, the exceptional thing is how agile it is for a car that, with a couple of options on it, must tip the scales at 2 tons. You can turn in at a rate that would make most big front-engine cars just wash outwards. A lot of small front-engine cars too, come to that. But the E63 turns really pleasingly, and if you play with the throttle, easing it on or off, there's a genuinely lovely balance. With the 4MATIC 4-wheel drive system on, and because its bias is mostly to the rear, the E63 will still steer at the back like a rear driver. But the pace it can maintain around the track is extraordinary, and seriously good fun. And then, of course, there's drift mode. Funny old phrase, drift mode. It's not like there's some clever electromechanical trickery going on with the 4-wheel drive system. It just disconnects the clutch for the front wheels and leaves the E63 in the kind of form to which right-hand drive buyers have been accustomed for ages. And in that form the E63 drifts and drifts and drifts for Germany. Puerile. Stupid. Silly. Yes, I know it is. But flippin' entertaining. The dynamic experience suggests you ought to be interested in one, if you're in the market for a car like the E63s, which means you might also consider an Audi RS6, Porsche Panamera Turbo or BMW M5. What about some prosaic and more relevant E63 points though? The interior feels lovely, as it is in regular E-classes. There's a digital instrument pack, and although one or two of the dials look a bit too much like a dartboard for my taste, there's no denying you can put a shedload of information up there. Then there's the massive central screen, which displays one of the best infotainment systems on the market, and the front seats, which are exceptionally supportive yet very comfortable. Plus it's big in the back seats and in the boot. More prosaic things again? On light throttle openings the V8 becomes a V4, and if you just poodle around the automatic gearbox soon shifts into top, albeit marginally less smoothly than a torque converter auto, so combined fuel economy is 31 miles per gallon. And that, let's face it, is how you'll drive it most of the time. A large executive saloon that's marginally less refined than a big diesel executive saloon, but still one that'll cassette and nurture and ease your troubles away with a gentle woof at the end of a long day. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's a 603 bhp supercab. More than you need, of course, but there are times when too much is just enough.